Sometimes you see something that just makes you think the whole world has gone mad, and that you're one of very few people who can clearly see through the diabolic fog that seems to have subsumed everyone else. Since this is a carnivore, keto, and food issues channel, it makes sense to bring stories related like that to you here because you are the target market for what I have for you today. A company has decided to make the most unabashedly processed meat product imaginable. The fact that it's processed is actually one of its selling points for the manufacturer, which sounds like madness to you and I, but with enough effective propaganda, they plan to get a huge stake in the market. If you'll forgive the turn of a phrase there. And while I'm the first to say that people should be free to eat what they want and how they want, as long as they have all the information they need to make a good choice and know the consequences of their actions, and while I fight for people to have that information so they can make an informed decision for themselves, there really needs to be a line somewhere that is drawn where we say no more. I'm not sure if this is on the other side of that line or not, but it has to be approaching it. Feast your eyes on designer fake meats that make Beyond Beef look organic by comparison.
Your steak could soon be 3D printed. That's if you live in Europe. Israeli company Redefine Meat has struck a partnership with importer Geraldi Meats to drive European distribution of its new meat steak cuts. The startup is hoping to establish its products as an alternative to conventionally produced meat. Redefine Meat operates large-scale meat printers at its Rehovot headquarters south of Tel Aviv, as well as in a new factory in the Netherlands. Manager of the company's 3D printers project, Yaron Eshel, explains how it works.
When I want to create my steak, I have a library of a few different slabs. I can choose each one of them and I can adjust it accordingly. I can define the amount of marbling, the internal fat or the external fat, and now I can start and go and print it and produce it. So I'm putting it. This is my queue. This is my timeline for today. I know that in an hour or something from now I will need to refill the machine with new material. But now I can go directly into the printing process, and you can see how the process starts to build layer by layer.
The company makes its products from ingredients including soy and pea proteins, chickpeas, beetroot, nutritional yeasts, and coconut fat. Co-founder and chief executive Eshchar Ben Shitrit said Redefine Meat was launching tenderloin and striploin steaks.
In the past 2 years, we have been working deeply on understanding meat and what makes meat so exciting, and we identified a few components that we can recreate from plants and have the same exact performance as the tissue of animal meat, giving you, with the combination of additive manufacturing, the exact feeling you experience a good steak, a good cut of meat coming from an animal without the use of the animal.
Plant-based meat alternatives have become increasingly popular in recent years. Spanish startup Nova Meat is also using 3D printing technology to manufacture vegetarian steaks. But the early hype about plant-based meat alternatives has ebbed, as inflation and recession worries have driven some customers back to cheaper animal meat products. Companies such as US-based Beyond Meat have cut their sales outlooks. Redefine Meat, however, has big ambitions. Its new meat is currently available in Israel, Britain, the Netherlands, and Germany. Almost 1,000 restaurants are currently paying about $40 per £2 for its steak cuts. The company plans to launch its products at restaurants and butchers in France, then in Italy, Greece and Sweden later this year, and in dozens more countries in 2023.
We see a world in a decade from now that new meat or meat made from plants is a big part of the meat industry. It replaces a lot of the meat that people consume today that is bad for the environment and bad for the most of the people in the supply chain. I still believe that people will consume high quality meat forever, coming from animals, and these two industries will live side by side. Even when we will become 1%, 2%, and the industry will become 10% of the meat industry, the impact on the planet is so big that it's worthwhile to pursue it in the next decade.
So that clip was from Reuters, and I love the part where they say they have been studying what makes meat exciting and then think they can recreate that in plants. I can answer what makes meat exciting for the man being interviewed there and save him millions of dollars in research if he wants. Eating meat is in our DNA, and real meat, not crap. We eat real meat. We have the jaws that are designed for that, the kinds of teeth we have in our jaws, and the digestive tract we have all point to being built for it. We're literally made to eat meat. We can eat a limited amount of other things, it looks like, and be fine, but we're obligate carnivores, meaning meat is what human beings are designed to eat. No amount of 3D printed pseudo meat is going to change that. I especially like the fact that the fake meat uses a combination of different plants, including pea protein to make the end product. Pea protein isolate isn't exactly the best protein for muscle protein synthesis, meaning your body's process of building muscle out of the food you eat. And it's essentially a toxic byproduct of industrial processed food manufacturing. Here's a brief bit on how pea protein is made from a Time magazine article from a couple of years ago, which ran this headline: "The Rise of the Pea, How an Unassuming Legume Emerged as a Front-Runner in the Race to Replace Meat and Dairy." There's a lot of money in pea protein, folks. It doesn't taste good, but there's a lot of money in it. Peas are relatively inexpensive to produce and can be used in a lot of different food products very efficiently, which are two things the industrial food sector really likes. From the article, quote, "Peas are easily broken down into building blocks of function: starch, fiber, and protein. In China, home to many of the manufacturing plants that do this work, called fractionation, pea protein isolate is widely thought of as the byproduct of the process. Pea starch is used to make noodles, and the leftover protein is shipped over to the US. McConnell's Fine Ice Creams makes 5 non-dairy flavors starring micronized pea protein. Ripple Foods has sold 7 million gallons of its non-dairy milk made with riptine, a proprietary protein made from yellow peas. And Annie's, one of the scant few utilizing organic peas, stashes it in its mac and cheese." End quote. Sounds delicious, right? Yeah, I didn't think so. So far, we've seen those fake meats aren't cheaper to buy than the real thing, though that's a problem with scale more than anything else. But here's the thing. No honest person would take a look at that plastic food printing and say that looks like something human beings should eat. No one would say that unless they had a vested financial or ideological interest in printed fake food, an interest in highly processed food. This stuff is the definition of processed food, and we already know that processed foods are horrible for our health. If you knew the chemicals used in the fractionation of pea protein, you'd be appalled. I recently did a video on how bad processed foods are for the environment, but I'll briefly tell you again here. If you care about emissions in the atmosphere in any way at all, then ramping up processed food production is the last thing you want to do. Food processing requires a lot more energy than animal production does, involves more components in the supply chain for transportation, and includes a more robust international aspect to the supply chain and its management. Meaning, in plain language, you're going to be using a lot more fuel and energy to get those fake meats from Israel or the Netherlands in these cases to market in the UK. And let's be real for a moment, they want to break into the US market. Every food manufacturer out there does. The advocates for the environment know that processed foods are not good for humans or for the environment too. They just don't care. The only thing that's green about this is the money involved. Hence the pea protein and soy protein components in the food. They're cheap, super cheap. They come from recycled food waste. They can then do that, get it on your plate, do it for cheap, and call it food, and they win big. Your health doesn't win, and neither does the environment, which is the excuse they're using here. Are you going to line up for one of these redefined meat things or one of its competitors? Because there's a number of them out there. Let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help. Share this on social media if you can. That helps a lot as well. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for watching.